All right, let's take a look at this homework assignment we gave you in order to review for your test tomorrow. So we're talking about Anthony and his sister Ciara saving their money to buy $240 MP3 players. They each plan to buy their own player. Anthony starts off with 50 bucks and adds 20 a week. Ciara starts off with $10 in her bank account and adds 30 a week. Complete each table based on that information. Okay, so let's do some reading here for really important information. So I'm going to start by remembering that if I'm looking at a linear relationship like we've been looking at, we need an initial value and a rate for each of these characters here. So I'm going to look at that in the reading here. And so this is sort of the making the plan idea. So I know that for what Mr. Boswick and Mr. Collins are asking me, they're thinking about linear stuff, so I better start thinking about what the initial value and the rates are. So if it says starts off with $50 in his bank account, that's a start off value. That's an initial value. So Anthony has 50 to start, and then he adds 20 each week. And so that tells me that my rate is plus 20 per week. Okay, let's look for Ciara here. Ciara starts off with, I'm looking over here, $10 in her bank account. So her initial value is 10, and she's saving a little bit faster. It adds 30 per week. And so we have plus 30 per week. So let's go ahead and look at the start that they gave us here on Anthony's table. So they're noticing, or they put in the initial value here. Across from 0 is 50 because his initial value we learned was 50. And so with that information ready for us, they did this calculation for the next one. So let's say we continued this calculation. So I'm going to do 50 plus 20 times 2 this time. And then 50 plus 20 times 3. And so I'll go ahead and calculate those. 20 times 2 is 40, plus 50 is 90. I'm noticing a pattern here. I added 20, and they added 20 before, so I bet I'm going to add 20 again. 20 times 3 is 60, plus 50 is 110. And indeed, it was an add 20, so I'm noticing that that rate is coming into play now. It's both the multiplier and it is the rate at which this increases when x increases by 1. So that rate is showing up in a couple of different ways. So I got 50 plus 20 times 4 now. That's 20 times 4 is 80, plus 50 is 130. Went up 20 again, as I suspected it might. 50 plus 20 times 5. 20 times 5 is 100, plus 50 is 150. Now I'm going to be careful. It's not going to go up 20 this time because this goes up by 3 and not 1. So I'm going to just go ahead and do the calculation. 50 plus 20 times 8. 20 times 8 is 160, plus 50 is 210. And then 50 plus 20 times 10. 20 times 10 is 200, plus 50 is 250. Okay, so we're done with Anthony. Let's go ahead and do CRs. It's going to be a little bit more challenging because they gave us less information to start off with. They haven't filled out any of the table yet. But I do know the initial value. Whoops, sorry about that. I do know the initial value. The initial value is 10, so that tells me across from 0, I'm going to have a 10. Now I'm going to exploit some of the information I learned from the last table and that you should know from class, and that's that if we have a plus 30 per week, that means every time the week goes up by 1, the total dollars should go up by 30. And so this next value should be 40. And then I'm going to go up plus 30 again. And so I'll have 70 and 30. So that's 100. And then plus 30 again is 130. And plus 30 again is going to give me 160, but at this point I can't use my pattern anymore because this is no longer going up by 1. So I'm going to backtrack now and try to find the process that works. So I know from my experiences in class that if I'm going from 0 to 10, that I need to do a plus 10. So in order to do that, I'm going to have a plus 10 in every single row of this process column. I'm going to remember something else from the previous problem here, and that's that rate of 20 showed up both as this part, but it showed up as the multiplier as well. So I'm going to try that and see if it works. So I'm going to try 20 times 0 plus 10. 20 times 0 is 0, plus 10 is 10. Let's try 20 times 1 plus 10. 20 times 1 is 20, plus 10 is 30. Well, that's kind of a bummer. Oh, wait. I know the mistake I'm making. The rate here wasn't 20, it's actually 30. So let's try 30 times 0 plus 10 is 10. 30 times 1 is 30, plus 10 is 40. 30 times 2 plus 10 is 70. So it sure looks like I'm onto something. 90 plus 10 is 100. 30 times 4 is 120, plus 10 is 130. 30 times 5 plus 10 is 160. So I think I feel pretty comfortable in extending the rule. 30 times 8 is 240, plus 10 is 250. And then 30 times 10 is 300, plus 10 is 310. So there we go. We've got our tables filled out. Now they're going to ask us to write a rule, I would bet. And you're definitely going to have to write some rules like this tomorrow. So I know for Anthony it's going to be y equals, I'm looking at my process column. It sure looks like I have this 50 in every single row, then plus 20 times, and then I'm multiplying it by the x value. And I can tell that because the thing that's changing in my process column happens to be the x value for each one of these rows. And I'll get rid of that so it looks a little bit cleaner. And then I have a rule for CR that I need to write. I'm going to write y equals, her initial value is 10, and she's adding 30 each week. And so that should be 10 plus 30x. I'm just going to make sure that that makes sense. I have a plus 10 here and a 30 times x for every single row. So I think my rules look good there. Now I'm going to use the information to try to make a graph. It's going to ask me to scale the graph and label the axes well. I'm going to start here. I'm going to look back up at my table and notice that y was total dollars and weeks was the x. So I'm going to go ahead and label that in. So this was total bucks, and then this was weeks. Now I'm going to look back at my tables and see what I need to get to. So for x's, I need to go from 0 all the way up to 10. So let's go do that. It looks like I might be able to get away with just counting by 1, so let's try that. If it doesn't work, we'll back up and try again. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so that worked. Now I need to figure out what's my lowest and highest for both. Looks like I need to be able to get down to 10 in the y's, and then the highest y value is 310. So I'm just going to try counting by like 25s and marking off every second one as 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. And I'm not sure if this is going to work, but if it doesn't, we'll just go back. 225 and then 250. It's looking good. 275 and then 300, and then 325 and 350. Looks like everything fit. So I'm going to do Anthony's in red. Okay, so Anthony, his first point is at 0.50, so I'll go ahead and mark that. So 0.50 is over 0, up 50. And then 170, and so I'm going to go over 1, up 70. And then 290, so over 2 and up 90. And 3, 110. 4, 130. This is looking like a nice straight line, which I should not be surprised about. Most of the stuff we've graphed so far has been straight lines, and this is no different. We have 8 and 210, so that's about there. And 10 and 250. Whoops, I think I moved my This one, it's out of line, so I'm going to adjust. I think I just misread my line there a little bit. 210, I think, is more like right there. Yeah, because there's 200 right here, and 210 should be right above it. Okay, so that looks good for Anthony. It's pretty well straight. I like what I see. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for Ciara. And so I'm going to write hers in green. And we'll go ahead and graph her data. Okay, so her first value is 0, 10. So over 0, up 10. And then 140. So up 1, over 1, up 40. And then 270, which is right there underneath 75. 3, 100. Looks like she's catching up. And then 4, 130. Ooh, it went right on top of it. And then 5, 160. And then 8, 250. And then 10, 310. And so I'm looking at my information here, and I think I made a little bit of a mistake, but that's okay. We always make mistakes, and so it's fine to make mistakes so long as you're willing to go back and try again. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my green dot here because it doesn't seem like I can move it. And I'm going to go back and revisit that point because it didn't look right. It wasn't in a straight line. So I'm going to go to 5 over 5, up 160. That should be just a little bit above there, 150. All right, that looks a little bit better. That's more of a straight line. All right, let's answer the questions they have going for us. So is there a time when Anthony and Ciara have the same amount of money? If so, state when this occurs. Now I noticed when I was graphing that there was this point where they were both at the same place. I'm going to go back to my tables to verify that. So when I think about this table, I'm looking at the row. It looks like 4 and 130 is what I'm looking at. So 4, 130, and that's in the other table as well. And since they share that point, I'm going to say that they have the same. $130 in 4 weeks. Now notice the way my answer sounds there. In order to report my answer, I had to say both the Y value, $130, and the X value, 4 weeks. So make sure you do the same thing tomorrow if we ask you a similar kind of question. All right, now when will Anthony have enough money to purchase the MP3 player? Let's look at Anthony's information. MP3 players, remember, are $240. And so I'm going to look at his total dollars here. 50, that's not enough. 70 is not enough. 90, 10, 130, 150, still not enough. 210, still not enough. He has enough here because 250 is more than 240. So I'm going to make a note, more than 240. And then let's look at Ciara. Not enough, not enough, not enough, not enough. 130 still not enough. 160, 250 that is. And that's more than 240. So it looks like for Ciara it's 8 weeks, and for Anthony 250 happens in 10 weeks. I'm going to verify that on my graph now. Just go ahead and look at this. For $240, that occurs right around here. So I'm going to draw this line across. And you can see that they both have values that jump above that line at 8 weeks and 10 weeks. And so we're going to report that down here. Anthony can afford it in 8 weeks. No, 10 weeks, sorry. He takes a little longer. Ciara can afford it in 8 weeks. So you're going to have to answer some really similar kinds of questions tomorrow. Make sure that you've thought through some of the same stuff that we have. It may be worthwhile to think through some of the strategies, or at least re-listen to some of the strategies we were looking at when we were filling out these tables, because that can be a tricky part of things. And I hope you do a good job. Thank you so much for watching this. It means you want to do well, and I hope you do.